Hello, my name is Elohim. I run Insight Transformations, and I am a massage therapist, energy healer, tarot card reader. One of the things that I like to do, and that is my part of my purpose, is to channel collective reading. Currently, we are in a phase of relearning the story of the universe. So I have been channeling Temperance, who is a judge in the spiritual courts. And I'm just going to start. Today I'm going to read two parts of it. And we're going to go from there. So this last week was part 2, The Great Father and Guile. Let us view the story from another perspective. Elohim, the Great Father, was not always separate from Guile, the Archon Father. In the beginning, when the Great Mother, who is the source of all, created the Great Father by her word, Elohim and Guile were one being. This being created with the Great Mother in harmony and joy, exploring the depths of creation together. Because the creations of the Great Father and the Great Mother were many and varied, they included both light and dark. The darkness concerned the Great Father. Elohim, desiring to purify creation and seeing the variations of existence, questioned his own worthiness to create from his wholeness. He found the darkness within his being, and cast it from him. The Great Mother, seeing the danger, was opposed to this separation, but could not stop him. They quarreled and parted. He then built a fortress and brought the lightest light of his creations with him into it, where they would then create from greater purity. The Great Mother was heartbroken, but more than that, as predicted, she was unable to quell the darkness left behind. The darkness that Elohim cast out took the name Guile, and became the dark counterpart of the Light Father. Guile enslaved the creation that he could, including the Great Mother. Guile's desire and gift centered around directing the creation of others. He did not develop the skill to create new, and he hated that the ability to do so had left with the rest of the Great Father. From a sense of powerlessness and hatred, Guile designed a way to rule over the all. He knew that if the Great Mother spoke, it was so, and that if she could not speak directly, others would be able to speak enough of her truth that creation would not cease. He also knew that her word was the key to creation. Against her will, the Great Mother bore a son imbued with the duality of the highest light and the deepest dark, and Guile began to bring him up in the ways of oppression and conquest. This son was the firstborn of the Great Mother and Guile. No matter what Guile taught him, the firstborn rebelled. Many could not see through the lies, for Guile was intelligent and subtle, but being gifted the strength and wisdom to be a great leader, the firstborn could not be deceived for long. He learned and grew quickly. Eventually, Guile realized he could not carry out his plan with one who was powerful enough to see through and reject him. So Guile devised another plan. This time he took only enough creation from the Great Mother to cast a sheen of light over his second-born, who was otherwise an exact copy of Guile. This second-born son he named Lucifer. Under the tutelage of Guile, Lucifer learned to hate light, to hate his mother, and to hate his older brother. He learned to trick and enslave, and practiced these concepts in various ways until he was proficient in them. His desire to find new ways to deceive and to delight in the effects of deception fueled his ability to do so. When he was ready, Lucifer left the Archon fortress and, displaying abject misery, begged to be let in to the fortress of the Elohim. His pathetic story of neglect and disfavor touched the heart of Elohim, who took him in with open arms. Because he could not embrace his darkness, the Great Father could not transmute it into wisdom. Elohim was unable to discern the trickery. Lucifer, succeeding in pulling on the heartstrings of the light counterpart of his father, touched these strings with intention and thereby wove darkness onto them. This darkness grew and spread. Lucifer took these strings and wound them around Elohim. With each successive interaction, Lucifer wound the dark strings another pass. Thread by thread, Elohim was bound, blinded, and enslaved. Still, the Great Father desired to create light and overcome darkness. And as he gathered his children, the collective Elohim, around him, they planned a new universe. Part 3. A Creation in Light. The firstborn of Guile and the Great Mother, imbued with the highest light and the deepest dark, learned quickly to discern between them. He saw that his might had been used to further his father's rule and refused to allow it any longer. Unable to free his mother and unable to rule in the way he felt best, the firstborn turned away from the dominion of the Archon fortress. Now the prodigal son, he began his journey to explore the all. Not all of creation was enclosed in the fortresses of the Elohim and the Archon Guile. Various beings had gathered and grown into their own groups, coming together through common agreements. These beings showed the prodigal many ways of being as he wandered, and he reveled in the beauty of creation. But always in his heart he carried a homesickness that could not be quenched, and a desire to know and understand the nature of creation. In his journeys, he discovered a radiant castle from which the pure light of creation flowed. Atop one of the parapets was a being with the energy of hope flowing from her. It appeared to him as a colorful scarf attached at her left shoulder and waving like a banner. The prodigal son felt inspiration stir within him. Here was a being whose light shone unfettered, embracing the divine feminine and living within the walls of safety. Her hope touched his heart. He decided that he must know her. In order to know her, he had to go before the Great Father, so he approached the gate and requested to be seen. "Welcome to my kingdom, where creation is solely in light," the Great Father addressed him. "Tell me why you have come." "I am alone in the world, and have wandered far," he said. "I am a good worker and strong in mind and ability. Your work seems good to me. I would like to join you." The Great Father turned his eyes on the prodigal son and measured his heart. "You have ability, and you have a good heart, but there is also darkness within you which you must master. I believe you will do so. We have need of beings to participate in the joy of creation. Come, join us, and we will teach you to create light." Belonging to a large and joyful family was unknown to the prodigal son. He had grown up alone, caught between his parents, and trained to be above those he was supposed to rule. In his travels across creation, he had seen many different ways of being, but had never belonged in any of them. Loneliness had been his constant companion. And so the prodigal agreed, becoming an apprentice as an adopted son of the Great Father. There were many children, numbering in the hundreds, and each was given their own tasks to work on. By desire, Hope and the prodigal worked together, learning and creating in their assigned projects. The prodigal also worked with others and built relationships within the family. But there was one who had an instant and pervasive distaste for him: Lucifer, the second son of Guile. Lucifer took every occasion to discredit the prodigal son, both to his face and behind his back. When the Great Father gathered all together to create a new universe, the ideas were discussed. The prodigal's protests were discredited. "The time has come to create a new universe, that creation may experience itself. Let us create a reality that exists in light," announced the Great Father. "Each of us has something beautiful to add. Let me hear your desires." Many spoke. "We have no answers to the problem of the split between light and dark. Let this creation play out these iterations and come back with answers," one proposed. "Who will give life to these beings, so that we may receive the answers?" another asked. "As the creators, we will go down into the mortal bodies that are born, and when we have fulfilled our purpose, these bodies will die, freeing us from this forgetting, so that we may come back and report our findings." "It will be as if we are dreaming," was the observation of one. "Why should we need to dream?" another asked. All paused for a moment in thought. The problem with this level of creation is that we know too much to live outside of this reality. Let those who give their souls to bring these beings to life forget who they are and where they come from, suggested another child of the Great Father. "If we forget, How will we know what to choose? If we choose dark, how will we make it back to the light? We do not desire to lose any of our family, the Great Father acknowledged. If we undertake a forgetting, even temporarily, there is the risk of becoming changed. Losing anyone would be unthinkable. How will we make a way for all to return? Let me have control of this creation, so that all may come back to the light, Lucifer suggested. I will be their savior, and in my light they will see yours. Yes, for without a guide we may lose our way. Control is not the way, added the prodigal, who had grown up witnessing the control and oppression of guile. The only way for all of this creation to come back to the light is from their own free will. Some of the family nodded agreement, but others shook their heads in dismay. How free is free will if we do not remember? Lucifer demanded. In forgetting we will be as children. A child must be guided, as it cannot think logically to be reasoned with. Your idea is irrelevant to this creation. I agree, spoke another. We are going down as children and therefore need more guidance. If we go down as children, we should then grow into adults before coming back. It would be a satisfying journey. But that adulthood will need to be slow enough for us to gather information and learn how to use it. Wisdom is a worthy fruit. Growth is empowerment. Those who go in as children and wake up as adults would find the adjustment hard. We must grow in our awareness gradually, and we will need guidance to grow. The Great Father considered all these points. Very well, we will have beings from higher awareness to show the way. They will be known as way-showers. Lucifer looked in alarm at the Great Father. Many way-showers could become confusing. There must be order. They need a leader, like you as father are a leader to all of us. I know your ways better than anyone. I would be that leader. The Great Father continued. One way-shower would have no balance, but many will tip the scales so that the children of creation will have many paths back home. It is wisdom. Those who wish to participate may do so, and those who do not may wait for another creation. And so, those who wished to create a universe in this way went to develop their contributions. Each dreamed up a way to resolve the split between light and dark, bringing it all back to oneness. Lucifer, having no desire to create of his own energy, and every desire to control everyone else's creations, set about siphoning from each creator in turn. As he wheedled his way into the ideas of each creator, he introduced slight misrepresentations. As with the chords he placed in the heart of the Great Father, he began leveraging the chords placed in the hearts of his adopted siblings. While they debated, he took key pieces of their work for himself. The concept of completion became distorted. Before, each being created from their wholeness using the energy of their combined efforts to create something above and beyond the sum of its parts. But as the creators developed and measured their creations this time, they found them lacking. Wholeness, Lucifer insisted, would come from combining these partial creations. It was not meant to make sense until it came together. They were doing well, he insisted, flattering them out of questions. The creators accepted this distortion. Lucifer was persuasive and manipulative. In his minor alterations, he positioned himself to be the older brother, the wiser brother, the one who knew the mind of their father the best. Eventually, he created enough lack to allow for himself to be the solution. He deceived them all. The prodigal son, along with some others, continued to question privately, but as the Great Father had spoken and all had agreed, the plan was carried out, and any misgivings were subsumed in good faith. Each had had the seeds of doubt planted, so that their claim to their inner authority was blocked. Since the prodigal felt like an outsider, he allowed his own self-doubt to cloud his mind. He knew only a few would listen to him, and he did not wish to lose his place in the family. The day to create the universe came, and all who wished to participate brought their treasured creations. At the center of the gathering place was a cauldron where each creator cast their contribution. As each cast their part in, it expanded and created a more beautiful whole. When Lucifer cast his part in, it grew for a time and then split. The explosion of this split caused all of the creators to be cast far and wide, but the creation was made and would follow its blueprint to completion. Elohim John. So I had recorded the second part independently last week, but due to some interesting Mercury retrograde stuff, I was unable to complete posting it. But I think it works just fine in the context of the progression with the third part. One of the most interesting parts of channeling this information has been realizing that the Great Father and the Great Mother, who are the creators of the universe, of the greater universe, not just this smaller one, they are twin flames. When the Great Mother spoke the word, it was, I wish to have a counterpart. And so her soul split to separate out the masculine from the feminine. And then I found it interesting as well that the Great Father split his own soul. But the difference between those is that twin flames are two separate whole individuals. It's cell duplication, essentially. And when the Great Father split his own essence, he took part of himself out and became incomplete. We talk a lot in the energy world about shadow work and light work. And one of the most interesting things that I have found on this journey and on the work that I have been doing energetically is the whole problem started with casting aside the shadow. If Guile had not been separated out and distilled into the deepest darkness from the Great Father, there would have been other ways to resolve it that were a lot gentler. Another point that I would like to make is that we talk about, the firstborn son, we talk about the Savior, we talk about all of these things. None of that has anything to do with Christianity or with Yeshua, who is known in Christianity as Jesus. That's not his real name. Yeshua is amazing. Yeshua is another judge in the spiritual courts, and he is very deeply invested in the well-being of Earth, and always has been. But he has made it clear, so far as I've been able to tell, that his only incarnation was as Yeshua, and that he has a lot of work that he does without a body. It's not really necessary for him to incarnate. That is what leads me to believe that he is not the prodigal son. He is not the firstborn of Guile and the Great Mother. Although they're definitely friends. But it's just interesting to me to see how this goes. I have already written the next part for the next week, but I feel like this is enough to let settle for now. And I will be posting next week as well. And we're coming up on the winter holidays, so, everyone's got their own time constraints. But that's very interesting stuff. And it's so much different from what we were taught growing up. The whole concept of a creation story and of religion is that we have some sort of a framework in order to relate to each other. I always say take what resonates. If there are things that don't really resonate with you, that's okay. Different people live in different realities, and some of them are a little bit different and some of them are a lot different. The most important thing that I've discovered from this particular story is, well, one of the most important, is that the creation of this particular universe is a microcosm, but it is not the whole of creation. The whole of creation is bigger than this little bubble that we have in Earth. And yet, this little bubble is so big. It's huge, and it's not just Earth, it's also all of the starseeds around Earth, all of the people who relate. And what I have found is that a lot of the beings who have incarnated are aspects of these Elohim beings, because Elohim is a plural. It is basically creator gods, and the dark aspect of each creator god is an archon, Archon. And what I've been finding is that when we clear beings who are more aligned with clearing their Elohim higher self, what we're finding is these archons, because the archons are created from contracts with the dark, which is the blueprint of what happened with the Great Father and Guile, is that it created a distortion. This has been talked about as a double mortgaged contract, where people make a contract and then, you fulfill your part, but the other part cannot ever be fulfilled because it's been moved by another contract to somewhere else, so you're never going to reach it. And for a while, we couldn't break through these double mortgaged contracts. But when we go up into higher realms, we actually can, because we have the authority to do so. And that is something that has been really important work in the spiritual courts. I have witnessed these distortions on every single level, going all the way back to the Great Father. Like, these massive distortions, splits, problems that show up lifetime after lifetime because we're trying to resolve it, but it's not been a fair game. The good news is that we did resolve the split between the Great Father and Guile recently, so that is starting to percolate through. And then we also did catch Lucifer and deconstruct him, because he is another distortion. The thing is, he basically is a clone of Guile. That was how he was created, and he was very convincing. But, I mean, even though he was convincing, there is still a part of us deep inside as light beings who have questioned and who've wondered. So that has been a very interesting arc to resolve. We as light beings are going to continue to resolve problems. We're going to continue to find things. Currently, we are getting other main players in this darkness, because I don't think that Guile split himself off just once. And I don't put it past Lucifer to have split himself off. It's kind of dumb. Or rather intelligent, for all the wrong reasons. But that's just what it is. But the fact of the matter is that we are winning, that we are resolving these deep issues that have caused all of the problems going forward. And as we do this work, and as everyone else continues to do their work, we are getting into that easier place of being. So I just want to assure you, if you are watching this and if you are drawn to this, that your work matters, however big or however small. We all created this beautiful place, and we created these problems, and we created the solution to these problems. Your life is the solution to these problems. That is how this creation was created. It was created so that we could enjoy it, and so that we could find solutions to problems that predate this creation. And we're doing it. So, yeah, I hope you have a great week. I will see you next week.